Imagine the universe hands you a literal blank check. No limitations, no strings attached. You are given one request that will be fulfilled. What do you ask for? For most of us, the answers are predictable. We want $1 billion. We want immunity from disease, or absolute destruction for our enemies. Immediate death of his political rivals, or he can demand endless, incalculable wealth. Out there in the dark at Gibeon, the ultimate hypothetical became terrifyingly real. The young king was forced to lay his true character entirely bare. Solomon's response breaks the expected human pattern. He begins by actively admitting his deep vulnerability, telling God that he is essentially a little child who does not know how to carry out his royal duties. Then he makes his request. He asks for a discerning heart to govern the people and correctly judge right from wrong. He asks for a tool specifically designed for the benefit of the citizens, not himself. We map this choice through moral economics. In this equation, as the variable for ego approaches zero, capacity for public service scales up massively. Because Solomon avoids asking for selfish gain, the universe responds with an aggressive multiplier. He receives the discerning heart and the exact items he ignored. The ensuing wealth, honor, and peace dwarf the assets of any modern billionaire. By refusing to leverage the moment for personal gain, Solomon aligned his personal interests so perfectly with his responsibilities that the wealth he ignored followed naturally. Back in Jerusalem, this new mental capacity is immediately put to the test. Two desperate women approach the throne. Both claim to be the mother of the exact same living baby. The ancient legal system had no DNA testing and no forensic tools. There were no witnesses in the house. It is simply one desperate voice against another. Then, Solomon issues a psychologically brutal command. He orders the guards to bring a sword, cut the living child in half, and give a piece to each woman. The bluff works. The true mother screams for the guards to stop, begging them to give the child to her rival just to keep the baby alive. The liar agrees to the division. The truth is exposed. The gift granted at Gibeon had immediate practical consequences. 1 Kings records that when the nation heard of the verdict, they stood in awe of the king, seeing that his judgment was driven by the very wisdom he had requested. Looking out across this panorama of Jerusalem, you can trace the physical results of his mind at work. He constructs the monumental temple. The economy explodes until silver becomes as common as street gravel. He builds staggering international supply chains. To secure the absolute best materials on Earth, he imports these massive, highly prized cedars of Lebanon across the mountains. To secure the kingdom's borders without relying on a standing army, he turns to geopolitics. He forms alliances with global superpowers, like marrying the pharaoh's daughter in Egypt, ultimately collecting 1,000 political marriages. Every marriage treaty required a small concession, a private shrine for a foreign wife, a small altar on a hill. Slowly, these tiny compromises accumulated until the smartest man on earth was publicly bowing to statues of stone right across from the temple he built. The man who could solve any logical trap for his citizens completely failed to protect his own mind from the gravity of his own success. Decades later, Solomon sits at the end of his life in the most opulent palace in human history. He has successfully tested every physical, romantic, and intellectual pleasure available on Earth. He writes his final conclusion in the book of Ecclesiastes. He surveys his massive wealth, his achievements, and his power, and he declares that without a grounded soul, having everything is utterly meaningless. It is like trying to catch the wind. The terrified, shivering boy kneeling in the dark at Gibeon ended up being far richer than the aging king surrounded by 1,000 wives and gold walls. We routinely tell ourselves that if we just get the promotion, secure the bank balance, or win the status we're chasing, we will finally be satisfied. We spend our lives begging for the blank check. But the ultimate answer to the universe's offer is not discovering what you can extract from it. It is having the wisdom to realize what you are meant to give.